2020 be one to remember. Drive away with an Axio car from Predo Baby. With 4 different options to win, follow us on Facebook at Predo Baby South America. Predo Baby diaper is known for its premium quality and high absorbency level. It keeps your baby dry and comfortable with its stretchy waistband. Available in regular paste and pull-up pants style from newborn to stage 7. See press for details or contact us on 233-2473. Predo Baby, the diaper of the new generation.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Hi, welcome to today's News at Noon on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Kevin Smith here. Before we get to the top stories we are tracking, let's get to today's page 7 of the Kaieteur News that is dedicated to being blunt. Guyanese politicians like to claim everything except responsibility for the oil deals. When it comes to that, they pull the shaggy defense. It wasn't me. The more Kaieteur News skins up about the oil block giveaway, the more officials with responsibility for the oil sector, from Robert to Raphael, suddenly have memory loss. Men who are puffed up with power when our wealth was being signed away are telling us that they were just bridges between the real players. Guyanese deserve more than those insults for answers. If you can't tell the truth, then the truth must be a terrible thing. And now for the top stories, we are tracking Exxon's continuous flaring in breach of contract, says international lawyer. Murder Essequibo, a 16-year-old girl stabbed 20 times, had endured relationship with 34-year-old alleged killer due to poverty. And in a Belgium coke bust, deleted scanner images still being recovered as extension granted to hold GRA staffers. An Energy Department head, Mark Bino, sent packing. Meanwhile, in the West Coast Berbice murders, $3 million reward leads to 7 new arrests. Stay tuned to stay informed.
If something doesn't look right, then there is something wrong. And if you suspect child abuse, then you must report it to the Child Care and Protection Agency. During this time more than ever, we have to be the eyes and ears of abused children across the country. So if you see it, or you know it, or even if you just think it's child abuse, then you must report it to the police or call the CPA hotline on 227-0979.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
And now for the news in detail that comes to you with the compliments of Predo Baby. International lawyer Melinda Janke believes that ExxonMobil's flaring of associated gas at the Stabroek Block's Liza Phase 1 operation appears to amount to a breach of contract. Associated gas is gas which is produced from an oil field. Janke's interpretation of Article 12.1 of the Production Sharing Agreement mandates that ExxonMobil's local subsidiary, ESSO, utilize the associated gas for those purposes before anything else is done with the gas. Meanwhile, Guyana gets no compensation for the flaring of what is now amounted to 12 billion cubic feet of associated gas. Janke urged current Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat to take action. In other news, 16-year-old Sinisha Lal, the girl who was murdered allegedly by her ex-lover on the Essequibo coast yesterday, was reportedly stabbed 20 times. The now-dead teen was killed in her Richmond housing scheme residence by a married 34-year-old man of Bounty Hall, Essequibo coast, identified as Kumar. The incident occurred sometime around 9 hours. The man charged into the room of the defenseless teen and stabbed her multiple times about her body. The suspect exited the home, got back into the minibus from which he came, and fled the scene. The teen died within minutes of the brutal ordeal. Unable to handle rejection, it was said the man snapped yesterday and apparently premeditated the kill to kill the young woman. Sources said that he bought the knife, along with a bottle of poison just before committing the crime. Let's tell you now that Kanu was granted a High Court extension to further detain 2 of 3 GRA staffers held in connection with a record drug bust in Belgium, as efforts continue to recover the deleted scanner images from the city's port of exit. This was confirmed by Kanu head James Singh, who said that the other GRA employee and the broker were released from police custody on condition. It is understood that 4 containers left Guyana on September 25th, shipped by Marlon Primo's MA Trading to the consignee Latraco Recycling BV. According to sources, only 3 of those containers were scanned and the images were later deleted. Under regulations, containers considered to be high risk leaving Guyana have to be scanned at the facility on Lombard Street, Georgetown, as part of the country's protocols for exports. Let's tell you now that Energy Department head Dr. Mark Bino yesterday received his letter of termination 3 days after Vice President Bharat Jagdeo revealed that he would likely be removed from the post. It is understood that the letter sent by the Permanent Secretary of the Office of the President, Abina Moore, instructed Bino that his contract was being terminated with immediate effect from December 11th and that he should proceed on leave. We attempted to make contact with Dr. Bino, but calls to his phone went straight to voicemail. In other news, more than 2 months after, the Guyana Police Force has made some headway with their probe into the murders of the West Coast Berbice boys, Isaiah and Joel Henry and Harish Singh, as 7 new suspects were recently taken into custody. Those 7 suspects were arrested for both sets of murders, Singh and the Henry boys being killed in 2 separate incidents. It was not clear, however, how many suspects were held in relation to these specific murders. While he did not reveal much additional detail, Crime Chief Wendell Blanham attributed this new development to the recent $3 million reward offered by the police for information pertinent to the cases. This is your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. Coming up after the break, deportee jailed for 70 years for Paprika fuel dealer murder. Another freed on a no case for vagrant's murder. Meanwhile, post-mortem reveals no sexual assault penetration in infant who died at New Amsterdam Hospital. Doctors assessing to determine the actual cause of death. Parents released. And evidence was sufficient to convict Nisa Gopal killers. Appeal court hears. And in your COVID-19 update, no free COVID-19 tests for travelers at government facilities, says the Georgetown Public Hospital. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Kurt Thomas, called Deportee, was yesterday sentenced to 70 years in prison for the murder of Paprika fuel dealer Siram Singh. Meanwhile, in another criminal trial case, the accused, Eustace Griffith, walked free on a murder charge based on a no-case submission. Both cases were presided over by Justice Navindra Singh at the Georgetown High Court. In arriving at his sentence for Thomas, Justice Singh started at a base of 60 years, but added 10 years since, in his view, the evidence shows the crime was premeditated. In the other matter before Justice Singh, the court upheld a no-case submission for Eustace Griffith, freeing him of the murder charge for Stabroek Market vagrant Stephen Dexter Arthur. Meanwhile, a post-mortem examination conducted on the infant who died at the New Amsterdam Public Hospital on Monday revealed that there was no penetration nor were there any injuries to deduce that she was sexually assaulted. It was reported in the media that the infant may have been sexually assaulted due to a certain finding. The autopsy proved otherwise. This was confirmed by police authorities. An assessment of the body will be conducted over the next 24 hours to determine what could have caused her death. Meanwhile, the parents who were held for the questioning over the death of their baby have since been released from police custody, statements having been taken from both of them. And moving on, Assistant Director of Public Prosecution Stacey Goodings has contended that the evidence which led to the conviction of Bibi Gopal and Jarvis Small for the murder of Nisa Gopal was sufficient. The appeal case was filed by Gopal and her former lover, Small, The duo are hoping that the appeal court would overturn their guilty verdict as well as the combined 202-year jail sentences, which they received for the murder of Gopal's 15-year-old daughter, Nisa. Young Nisa's partially decomposed body was found in a suitcase submerged in a creek along the Linden-Soesdijk Highway in September 2010. And now for your COVID-19 update. The number of worldwide coronavirus cases, according to Worldometer, has reached 52.6 million, with deaths at 1.2 million and recovery cases at 36.7 million. Locally, the Ministry of Health announced 2 new COVID-19 fatalities, a 74-year-old male from Region 10 and a 74-year-old female from Region 4. According to the ministry, both persons died while receiving care at a medical facility, and their deaths increased Guyana's COVID-19 death toll to 137. Additionally, the ministry recorded 88 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 4,618. 10 persons are in the COVID-19 ICU, 56 persons in institutional isolation, 800 persons are in that should be approved home isolation, and 33 persons are in institutional quarantine. Meanwhile, Head of Strategic Planning and Communications at the Georgetown Public Hospital, Chalana Providence, disclosed that no free COVID-19 tests will be granted to travelers at government health facilities. With commercial flights now entering and leaving Guyana, persons have flocked to various public health clinics, including the Georgetown Public Hospital, requesting COVID-19 tests for travel purposes. Their requests were turned down by health workers who advised that they head to Eureka Lab, a private laboratory located on Thomas Street in Georgetown, to get their tests done. However, some travelers were angered and complained that a PCR for COVID-19 at the private laboratory is too expensive. Earlier this year, it was reported that the PCR test, which is required by some countries for travel, will cost $25,000 at Eureka Lab. And coming from CNN, more than 50 million cases of COVID-19 have been recorded worldwide as countries hit new records globally. The US has set a record for the second consecutive day for the number of people in hospital with COVID-19. According to the COVID Tracking Project, the country has surpassed 10 million cases and 240,000 deaths, with several states breaking daily case records. Meanwhile, Pfizer's CEO sold 5.6 million in stock the day he announced the vaccine may be 90% effective. Russia has announced very early positive Sputnik V vaccine data. And that brings us to the end of today's news at noon. I am Kevin Smith. Remember, the news came to you with the compliments of Predo Baby. I am Kevin Smith. Once again, thank you for listening. Coming up next is the National Outlook with GHK Lal.
Want to remember. Drive away with an Axio car from Predo Baby with 4 different options to win. Follow us on Facebook at Predo Baby South America. Predo Baby diaper is known for its premium quality and high absorbency level. It keeps your baby dry and comfortable with its stretchy waistband. Available in regular paste and pull-up pants style from newborn to stage 7. See press for details or contact us on 233-2473. Predo Baby, the diaper of the new generation.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur